What's up, Hokie Nation, and welcome into this special Tech Sideline video. We have a special guest on set here at ACC Kickoff in Charlotte, the ACC Network's Eric Mac Lain. Eric, how are you? Thanks for coming on.
Man, I am so good, brother. We're here on Radio Row. All my best friends are here. Going to hang out with all you guys and talk some football, which is great. We're right here in this season and, talking season. Some fun things have come out. Some coaches are a little excited,
yes.
A little over the top, but it's a great time.
Well,
it's a great time.
Let's jump into it. How do you view Virginia Tech coming into the 2025 season? A little bit different compared to maybe how it was this time last year.
Sadly, why you got to ask me that first?
I'm sorry.
Sadly, night and day differently, right?
Yeah,
there was so much expectation. There was so much excitement. Just last year that we thought the Hokies were a dark horse for the playoff. I mean, we had so much that we were looking forward to, and then, for whatever reason, injuries and other things, it didn't happen. And I think there was some real, disappointment there. And I can only imagine for you guys and the rest of Hokie Nation. And this year, it's kind of like, show me whatever you want. There's not a ton of expectation on my end. But I will say this, that there needs to be. And Blacksburg deserves that. The fans deserve that. High-quality football, great quality football. And, there's some pieces that have come in that, surely you can be excited about, but there's also some unproven pieces that, need to just step up and play at a high level.
One more thing on last year. From your view, why do you think things did not go how they were expected to?
I think injuries had a big piece of that. And sometimes there's just too much expectation. A team just isn't ready for that.
Yeah.
And, you start listening to some press clippings, you listening to what your mom and dad say, fans, things of that nature, and you're not ready for that moment. And, I think that's unfortunate. And, I don't know, there were times it just didn't look like things fit. And clearly some changes were made or had to be made, and guys decided to go other places. And the key is you got your quarterback, and can Kyron ultimately step up and be the guy that we all think he should and can be?
So you mentioned Kyron Drones. What step up does he have to take this year, do you think, for the Hokies to be successful?
Well, staying healthy, being there, being available. He's a fantastic runner that I think can just go straight through guys, do whatever you need there. But then just to get more accurate, right? Like he needs to be able to hit intermediate, short, quick game type stuff on top of the bombs, downfield. So just, overall improvement's going to be a key. The familiarity with the team, the program, what we want to be is important. And again, it comes back to health with me. I just hope he's ready to go and can rip it, man, all year long, because he seems like such a special talent. We can't have him on crutches or on the sideline.
Sure. Kyron Drones is one of the few returners for Virginia Tech this year, but kind of taking our attention away from the personnel to new coordinators too. How different do you think Virginia Tech is going to look this year, and what do you kind of anticipate from the Hokies, where you have a first-time defensive coordinator at the Power 4 level, and then obviously Philip Montgomery, a veteran at the OC spot too? Right.
I think at the DC spot, you have a guy that has done some stuff in the NFL, knows what it's like to be at the highest level, what it should look like, from a schematic standpoint, from an execution standpoint. And, for me, that can be intriguing in how multiple he wants to be. What is his base going to be? We'll find out when and how, is he going to be aggressive, sending blitzes, and ultimately sacking the quarterback. I mean, that's just two things you got to do: stop the run, sack the quarterback in Blacksburg, with kind of the history there. And then, offensively, just how can we mold the guys around us, to fit the offense that you want to be. So
as a former offensive lineman, obviously you played on the offensive line at Clemson. Virginia Tech has its third offensive line coach in 4 years. How challenging, granted, again, today's day and age, personnel changes, right, but how challenging can it be for that group where you have another new voice in the room for the third time in 4 years? Well, let me ask you, is there anybody that's been through all three off the top of your head that Like, is there enough guys? Anybody that's still there? You know what I mean? Anymore. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And this world is so different now, where you can just change things and there's turnover and you have those new faces. Now, from a culture continuity standpoint, it's a big deal. And if this was a couple of years ago, having guys like myself who have gone through the program for 5 years, that's a big deal. But
with there being new guys, new players, new coach, let's figure it out together, and maybe that can actually be an advantage.
How key is that South Carolina game? Kind of goes without saying, but you open up the season with 2 SEC opponents, and feels like those are some big opportunities you can't really miss out on.
And yes, I agree. And it's just how much can you take advantage of that? Because historically, Virginia Tech recent history, Virginia Tech has had these very slow starts and frustrating starts, and you cannot do that. I mean, you'll be embarrassed, on national TV on Sunday, and then when, Vanderbilt comes to town week 2. So you have to be ready. There has to be an unbelievable sense of urgency, ownership by this team while they're practicing in fall camp, and just say, who do we want to be? What do we want to do? What do we want to be remembered for? Because the opportunity's there. Again, imagine if this team starts off 2-0. I mean, it's a crazy different story that we're talking about here. So, the opportunity's there for them. You hope that having a veteran quarterback, that matters and should matter. And at the end of the day, the relative silver lining, you're facing a very similar guy back-to-back weeks.
Right.
2 guys that want to run the football, that want to be a little chaotic with the way that they operate in an offense. So the game plan should be similar. You should have an idea, and you should own that plan going into that game.
Yeah, I definitely don't think they can lose that Vanderbilt game, because you can't lose to another, and I get it, the SEC, but at that point, you would have lost to Rutgers, Purdue, and Vanderbilt at home all in 3 years. Yeah. So that's a game you got to win, I feel like.
You have to. Yeah. And again, I think I don't ever want to call for other pressure and hot seats and things of that nature, but it'll start getting warm.
Yeah.
It'll start getting warm.
Yeah. The ACC as a whole, how do you view the conference this year? Clemson the favorite maybe in your eyes?
Yeah, I think a pretty big favorite.
Yeah.
They have the shortest odds ever, I think. Did you see that?
Yes.
It's remarkable, especially some of the teams they've had. And what's weird about that is you think the league is better than some of those other years, so it's weird that they are such an overall favorite or such an odds-on favorite. But they are loaded, And just to go big picture first, I think we have a lot of great quarterbacks. I think that we have a lot of great personnel, fantastic coaches, and it's time to take the next step as a league-wide. This week 1 that everybody has, there is monumentous, momentum that we can grab as a conference. There's narrative-shifting games that are to be taken, and I hope that we can do that, because it'll make my job a lot more fun, make it a lot easier, and, just as a whole, the product that will be out there, it's what we need, right? And so, you hope that you get to see something of that nature. I think at the end of the day, Clemson's going to be the favorite. Miami is always the favorite right now. Can they take the step forward recruiting-wise? They've had the number one recruiting class in the ACC the last 3 or 4 years. So it's a big deal there. Can SMU continue to play well? Can Louisville get back to a couple of years ago at the level that they were playing at? And then it's Virginia Tech, NC State, Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh, Duke. We need those teams to come on and carry that weight.
What do you expect from North Carolina this season? Year number 1 for Bill Belichick in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, not a lot. I mean, I have no clue personnel-wise who they're going to be. You probably have a quarterback competition, I imagine, with Gio Lopez and Max Johnson, 2 very different guys. You have a couple of receivers that stayed, but other than that, I mean, it is a brand-new looking team. I mean, they have 50-plus, new players, and that's great. You got all the Super Bowls, but Tom Brady ain't walking through the doors and wearing, Carolina blue. So there's too many unknowns for me to even think about giving you a number. I think Vegas has it at 7.5.
Is it that high, really?
I'm going under that, I think. Which is that worth $10 million? I don't know if you feel great about that. So there's going to be some interesting things that happen in Chapel Hill.
That's a podcast on its own right there.
100%.
That's a podcast on
100%.
its own. Just to close it out, I want to ask the same question, but directing it back to Virginia Tech. What should I know the fan base is different, fans should feel the way they want to feel, but what is the appropriate expectation for Virginia Tech fans this season for what the Hokies are going to produce on the field?
Yeah, it's hard because you don't want to live in mediocrity. You don't want to live and me just sit here and say, bowl game, you're good. It's not the case. Should be the bare minimum for Virginia Tech is talking about going to a bowl game. But this year in particular, new faces, first-year coordinators, that's probably the measuring stick. That's probably a successful season if you get back to bowling, win the bowl game, and then have some real juice moving into the offseason, either making more acquisitions player-wise or growing who you have recruiting-wise on your team.
Well, Eric, thank you once again for stopping by. Anytime you're in Blacksburg, stop by the new studio.
I will.
So.
I'm excited to see this new studio, and appreciate y'all. Y'all do great work, and thanks for always having me.
That's Eric Mac Lain. I'm Carter Hill, and thanks for tuning in from Charlotte.